Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human form who adhere to the norm and blindly conform? Who swallow all the mainstream BS and actually ridicule you for questioning things? Do you wish you had more free-thinking individuals in your life to network and converse with? Well, look no further. We're right here. Come and join the Brotherhood of Reason on Patreon. You'll gain access to my weekly topical content where we take deep dives on an endless variety of subjects, as well as my vast back catalogue of podcasts, videos, interviews, movie decodings, and my Confessions of a Nightclub Bouncer series. You'll also get to talk and network with myself and hundreds of other people in our members chat. You can enjoy all this via the Patreon app or on desktop and download all my podcasts in high quality MP3. There's no contract, no commitment. You can cancel at any time, just like Netflix, but it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Just download the app from the Play Store or the App Store, or simply visit patreon.com on a web browser. Then head on over to my page and select the tier called the Brotherhood of Reason. All the links are in the description box below. And just a quick money-saving tip for Apple users. If you purchase your Patreon subscription on the desktop site or on Android, then you'll avoid the ridiculous 30% fee that Apple charges for purchases made on the iOS app. So if you're on iPhone or iPad, save yourself some money by buying your subscription on the actual Patreon website or on Android, because it's a lot cheaper. Once you've made that initial purchase, you can then use the Patreon app on your iPhone or iPad thereafter to access and enjoy your content as normal. Are you surrounded by mindless bots in human... Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I am your host. Welcome aboard. Let's talk some boxing. So last night we had the Boots Ennis, Karen, and I'm really going to struggle with this name. Is it Chuckhadzhian? That's how they were saying it on the DAZN broadcast. I'm going to go with Chuckhadzhian or Chuckhadzhian, right? So don't get on me for butchering the name. So let's get straight into it. Again, shout out to everybody in the chat. Let's talk about this Ennis fight. And we're also going to go through the fights on the card that I saw. I didn't watch all of them. I am going to get round to watching certain fights in full, which I only saw part of. So anyway, let's start off with the main event. Boots Ennis versus Chuckhadzhian. This was a rematch. Their first fight was, I think, 2 years ago. There or thereabouts. And Boots Ennis didn't look very good in the first fight. And he didn't look very good in this fight either. In the first fight, Chuckhadzhian basically ran. In this fight, he elected to stand and give it a go. But it didn't make for a much more entertaining spectacle. However, the big story here for me is how poor Boots Ennis looked. Now, we'll get onto the reasons why, but one of the things that was a massive disappointment here was Boots Ennis' defense. And in fact, the only thing worse than Boots Ennis' defense in this fight was his dad's advice in the corner. I mean, Bozy Ennis had an absolute shocker. It was actually shades of Teofimo Lopez's dad in the George Kambosos fight. You guys remember that? When Kambosos was giving Teo the business and all his dad could say to Teo in the corner was, knock that MFer out. Knock that MFer. I mean, that's all he was saying. He wasn't giving any practical advice. He was just telling his son, go knock him out, go knock him out. Like, if it was that easy, your son would be doing it. Same thing here with Bozy Ennis in his son's corner. If it was that easy to knock Chuckhadzhian out, your son will be doing it, you donut. It's obviously not that easy. He needs some practical advice, not just you shouting, knock him out, knock him out. And in fact, the dynamic of their relationship, you know, you've got Bozy Ennis, who's like a drill sergeant type personality, domineering, overbearing. He talks to Boots like Boots is still a little boy. Right now, perhaps that dynamic helped Boots in his life to a certain extent. Maybe it helped him in his career to a certain extent. But I tell you what, it didn't help him in this fight. Bozy Ennis wasn't giving him any decent advice, and he was actually, in my view, causing Boots to fight in a way that was counterproductive, in a way that got him hit more often. He wasn't trying to set up the shots to score the knockout. He was trying to force it. And one of the main things, one of the reoccurring things that trainers will tell you over and over again in boxing gyms is don't force the knockout. Don't go looking for the knockout. Just box your way into the fight. Normally, let it up, let everything unfold organically, and the knockout will come when it's good and ready. Don't try to force it. Bozy Ennis ignored all that and said, no, force it. Now, if you were in the 11th round and you were 10 rounds down, I could understand the trainer saying, okay, you got to knock the guy out. And that's all the advice he's giving you. Just knock the guy out, knock the guy out. I could understand that. But Bozy Ennis was telling his son to do that, to knock out Chuckhadzhian from about the 4th round. It's like, what are you doing? You're imploring your son to fight in a way that is going to maximize the number of mistakes he's making. Sergio Mora actually got it bang on in the commentary when he was saying that Chuckhadzhian is not ready to be taken. He's not ready to go. Even though he did drop Chuckhadzhian fairly early on in the fight. He still had plenty left in the tank. And as I say, Bozy couldn't seem to see it. It's amazing how badly he misread what was going on in the ring there in front of him. Incredible. Now, obviously, we give credit to Chuckhadzhian for improving over the first performance he put in against Boots Ennis a couple years ago. He, as I say, didn't do as much running and moving. He seemed to be in a better mind frame to tackle Boots. He knew what he was going up against. In addition to that, though, you guys may remember in the post-fight video I did for the Avanesian fight, I said that I think Boots is dead at the weight. To me, he looks like a guy who has stayed at welterweight for too long, and he's now starting to lose energy. He's starting to lose snap in his punches. And I saw it again here against Chuckhadzhian. He looks like a guy that is dead at the weight. Now, I'm not making any excuses for Boots because so many fighters will use weight as an excuse for looking bad or losing. At the end of the day, Boots' defense is trash, and that's got not much to do with weight. Yeah, I don't expect if Boots moves up to 154 that defense is going to get a whole lot better. I mean, maybe if he sacks his dad, fires his dad, gets a new trainer, they might be able to improve it depending on who the trainer is. But a lot of defense, and Dwyer often says this, a lot of defense is actually instinctive. So you can sit a guy down, take him in the gym, show him all the defensive moves in the world. If he doesn't know when to pull those moves, the right time to do the right maneuvers, then he's still going to get hit a lot. And so, as I say, it's maybe an instinctive thing that Boots is missing there. I thought Boots' timing was horrible. Defense was horrible. Sergio Mora also, and he pointed this out in the Avanesian fight, Boots appears to take a good shot. Well, he's going to need to have a good chin moving up, right? Getting hit as often as he does. But anyway, to finish my thought, in the post-fight video following the Avanesian bout, I said that I thought Boots looked drained, and I said that I thought he should move up to 154 and forget about trying to unify. I feel that even more strongly after what I witnessed just there. Because, again, Boots' defense is trash. It's not going to get better if he moves up. But I do think he'll have more energy. He'll have more snap on his shots. And he'll be able to operate at distance more effectively. Because he falls in a lot, Boots. He's got this big, long reach. He's got speed. Why not use the reach? I think it's because he didn't really have the energy to be maneuvering around that much. Same in the Avanesian fight. I was actually quite surprised by how many people were impressed by his performance against Avanesian, because I weren't impressed. I thought he looked pretty horrible against Avanesian, and even more horrible here against Chuckhadzhian. So that's my take on that fight. Let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Shout out to Craig. Shout out to Matt G. Matt G says, didn't Boots' response to Chris Mannix's question about his defense, or didn't like, Boots' response to Chris Mannix's question about his defense. With that mindset, it will never improve. Fizz says, great chin, but defense is a must. Yeah, I mean, it's not like Boots has ever been hit by a serious puncher, but he has been hit clean on the chin by, Avanesian and a bunch of other guys who have got decent power, and nothing has happened. So I think we can at least say he doesn't have a glass jaw, does he? Or else that would have shown itself by now. So he's got at least a decent chin. And as you guys say, he's going to need it moving up with a defense like that. Shout out to Charles B. He says, everything Eddie Hearn touched turns to you know what. And I was thinking about that right before the stream. I was saying, what's the opposite of the Midas touch? Wherever the opposite of the Midas touch is, Eddie Hearn appears to have it. Eddie Hearn appears to have the opposite of the Midas touch. Wherever he touches, turns to doo-doo. Dear, oh dear. Shout out to Craig. He says, Calzaghe, he's an anomaly though. Plus Joe. Okay, I guess he's having a conversation with someone else in the chat there. But shout out to Craig every time. Craig also says, Boots seems to struggle to make adjustments on the fly, getting hit by the same shots over and over. Indeed. XMB45 says, Boots is like Broner and Gary Russell. Fast hands but slow feet. He certainly appeared that way in his last 2 fights. But previous to this, if you go back 18 months, Boots had fast feet. Yeah, his hands were faster, his feet were faster. And as I say, I think it's a symptom of really struggling at the weight. I mean, he's definitely a massive welterweight. I think a move up is overdue, but his dad is definitely not helping. The advice in the corner for this fight was shockingly bad. Oh my gosh. He didn't have anything practical to tell him other than knock him out every time he went back to the corner. And he was like, you know, he's bigger than Boots. He was like standing over Boots, talking down to him like a child. I mean, nah. I don't like that dynamic for Boots at this stage of his career. He needs better advice than that in the corner. Matt G, that's a great comment. Shout out to G-Man in the chat. Matt G, that's a great comment. He says, there's something about Matchroom that comes across as soulless and too businesslike. The mentality of Queensberry fighters, not the same, in my opinion, and you saw that in the 5v5. That's such a good comment. Eddie Hearn seems to be in it now purely for the money. Obviously, he's always been in it for the money for the most part, but there was a time when he was really passionate about what he was doing. I don't see that anymore. I see it as purely about the money now, purely about business. There's no real passion there. Fake passion, yeah, but not genuine, sincere passion. I think Eddie Hearn, like a boxer who's been broken down by his opponent, you know, who's had his heart broken, as they say, had his spirit broken by his opponent. I think Eddie Hearn has had his spirit broken by his promotional opponents and also by some of his biggest fighters either retiring or, in the case of AJ, falling by the wayside. I think Eddie Hearn is, his spirit, his passion for the game is gone, has been broken, and now it's just purely about the money. And that's the way he's moving. So I definitely agree with that. Great comment. Anyway, let's move on to the next fight here. Now, I haven't seen this fight in its entirety. It was a very short fight. I just saw the stoppage. Of course, it was Bam Rodriguez against Gavara, and it was a blowout. So I won't talk about that here because, again, I only saw the stoppage. I do understand that Gavara was a world champion at a lower weight class, but this turned out to not be a very competitive fight. Gavara was moving about from what I saw and trying to stay out the way, but Bam Rodriguez caught up to him and took him out in clinical fashion. What I can talk about, however, is the Ray Ford fight. Now, Ray Ford against Orlando Gonzalez. This is the sharpest I have ever seen Ray Ford in his whole career. I'll be honest. Early on in Ray Ford's career, in fact, up until very recently, I've never been particularly impressed by him. Like, one thing I can say about Ray Ford is that he's shown himself to be physically and mentally tough. in fights. He's definitely shown that. But in terms of his offensive and defensive ability, to me, it was like, slightly above average, but nothing spectacular. And I thought in the Nick Bull fight, he fought a very strange contest because he didn't throw any punches for like the first 7 rounds or the first 6 rounds. But when he did start throwing punch, and by the way, unlike most Nick Bull opponents, Ray Ford wasn't getting hurt by Nick Bull's punches. Did you guys notice that? Wasn't getting hurt, but he was just laying around and letting Nick Bull get shots off and not really throwing anything back. When he did start throwing back about halfway through the fight, he started hurting Nick Bull. I've never seen Nick Bull hurt before. But when Ray Ford finally started throwing some flipping punches back, Nick Bull was getting hurt. The only person hurt in that fight was Nick Bull, not Ray Ford. Yeah? Nick Bull deserved to win, in my view, right? But he got hurt in there, yeah? But it was a perplexing performance because Ray Ford was so inactive. Now, as I said earlier on, lots of fighters will make excuses for poor performances or losses. They'll say, they'll blame it on being weight drained and all that kind of thing. Now, sometimes it is just a BS excuse. Amir Khan used to use that every time he got knocked out. I was drained. Then he moves up. I've got a great chin at this weight. Gets knocked out again. I was drained again. Let me move up to another weight class, right? So some fighters say it and they're just trying to give themselves confidence. But I can honestly say that after watching Ray Ford in this fight, as sharp as he was, as much power as there appeared to be there compared to how he was in the lighter weight, I think he was really drained. I'm convinced now after watching this. I know the opposition wasn't as good as the opposition he was fighting at featherweight. I get that. But I'm just looking at the speed of Ray Ford's punches, the sharpness, the energy levels that he had. I think he was dead at the weight. Yeah, I was very impressed. This is actually, full disclosure, this is actually the first time I've been really impressed by Ray Ford in his whole career. Again, he's always looked decent to me, but nothing spectacular. Here, he looked really dangerous. The right hook in particular up front was a fantastic shot in this fight. Early on, he was going for the southpaw left. He would sometimes throw it straight. He would sometimes loop it. And Gonzalez was able to block it a lot of the time. But the right hook up front, what a beautiful shot. I can't remember if the first knockdown was as a result of the right hook, but I remember the knockdown later on in the fight. Hang on, how many knockdowns was there? Was there 2 knockdowns or just 1? I forget now, but I remember him landing that right hook again later on in the fight. And I was just like, oh, what a shot. So yeah, Ray Ford put on a very impressive performance in his first fight stepping up to super featherweight. Very, very impressive, very sharp, good energy, good power, accurate. I liked it. He was very confident in there. So I think this might be his division, and he might be able to do some real damage in his weight class. So yeah, what did you guys think about Ray Ford? I thought he looked really good in there. The first time I've really been impressed by him. Fizz says Gonzalez was running. Well, he was running late on. Earlier on in the fight, he wasn't really. Actually, no. Tell a lie. He was running early, and then in the middle of the fight, he started to stand his ground and try and fire back. And then late on in the fight, as you say, you're right, he did start running again. That did happen. 2 knockdowns. Thank you, Isaac. Yeah, that right hook was just a wicked shot. Adrian says, the moment Queensbury beat Matchroom 5-0, clean sweep in the 5v5 back in June, Eddie Hearn was game over. That was probably the nail in the coffin. Maybe not the last nail, The first nail, the third nail, the fifth. I don't know, but it was definitely a nail in the coffin. Shout out to Toro TV. But yeah, I was very impressed by Ray Ford. Very, very impressed. A big improvement there. All right, we've got 194 concurrent viewers. Can I please ask all of you guys, do me a favor, it really helps this live stream get seen. If you can drop a like on the video, if we can keep the like ratio at least 50%. So we need about 100 likes. We've got 64 so far. Please do me a favor. Much appreciated if you can stick a like on the video, get us up to 100 likes. We're on 73. 20 more likes. Let's get them up, people. All right, 4 Fox says, I actually can't believe the Zone never hired Frotch for commentary. Well, that's something we can talk about, actually. 10 more likes, people. 10 more likes. Much appreciated. 10 more likes to get us up to 100. That'll be 50% of concurrent viewers. 6 more. Yeah, we can talk about Carl Frotch and Eddie Hearn. Because I saw an interview with Eddie Hearn the other day where he was addressing Carl Frotch's comments about the Joe Cordina situation. And Carl Frotch said, Carl Frotch was talking about how Joe Cordina's been hard done by Matchroom and so on. Eddie Hearn, in the interview in response, said that might have to be dealt with. And he was basically insinuating, suggesting that he might take legal action against Carl Frotch for defamation or whatever. Because he says we need to defend our position and all that kind of thing. So it seems as though the relationship between Eddie Hearn and Carl Frotch is really beginning to sour. Now, we know it's been a bit iffy the past year or so because Carl Frotch has been going in on AJ, and Eddie Hearn don't like that. But now it's reached the next level where Eddie Hearn is starting to act like Frank Warren. Starting to hand out writs, lawsuits everywhere when people say things he doesn't like. So watch this space, or watch that space regarding Eddie Hearn and Carl Frotch. Yeah, and that's why Carl Frotch ain't on the Zone. Eddie Hearn ain't gonna have that. Frank Warren ain't gonna have that. Neither of them like Carl Frotch, so there's no way he's gonna get a gig on the Zone anytime soon. Anyway, let's move on to discussing the next fight that I saw in the card. I didn't see the whole fight, so I'm going to watch the whole thing after this stream, and then maybe I'll do a separate post-fight video about it. But it was Khalil Cole against Manuel, is it Galayos? My Spanish is terrible. Manuel Galayos, we'll go with Galayos, right? Now, Cole was a Matchroom prospect or contender in the light heavyweight division, hoping to make a splash, hoping to make a name for himself. Apparently, he was a pretty good amateur. But he went in there against this Mexican guy, and he got the brakes beat off him. He was slinging a big right hand over the top. He was obviously hoping to get this guy out of there. Apparently, Cole is a good puncher. But I caught the fight. I forget exactly which round it was. But from the round I caught it, it was back and forth seesaw action. With Cole shaking the Mexican and the Mexican coming back at him, putting him down. And he was down several times in the fight. And eventually it became quite clear that he weren't going to win. The only question was whether he would be able to survive the distance. And in the end, he couldn't. He made it as far as, the 9th round when he got stopped. And it was a 10-round bout. Stopped very early on in the 9th. And his corner tried to pull him out, but again, in many states, the commission require that the fighter actually consent to being pulled out of a fight. So ultimately, you know, for a fight to be stopped in the corner, the fighter basically has to quit. And credit to Cole, he refused to quit. The trainer said, look in my eyes, do you want me to pull you out of this fight? And Cole said, no, don't pull me out, let me go on. That's the pride. You know, he didn't want to be embarrassed and be labeled a quitter in front of all those people. So, you know, he gallantly fought on. Someone, shout out for the super chat. He says, best boxing insult during the press conference. Poppadom Shin has to be up there. Best boxing insult. For me, it was actually, I mean, I'm going off the top of my head here, obviously. But one that springs to mind was Angel Garcia before the Amir Khan Danny Garcia fight. Where he was, you know, mimicking Amir Khan's boxing style, jumping up and down and saying that Khan was wearing high heels to make himself look taller. Yeah, Angel Garcia's trash talk was legendary and hilarious. I get that people don't like Angel Garcia and, you know, they say he's not a good guy and whatever. Maybe he's not. Either way, I found it funny. I'm not going to lie. Angel Garcia was hilarious to me. Casa says, if Hearn actually took legal action, legal action for defamation against Froch, credibility-wise, it's over. Yeah, but maybe he's getting influenced by Frank Warren. You know? Maybe he's getting influenced by Frank Warren. Another, I mean, if you're talking about boxing insults and trash talk, Muhammad Ali delivered some of the best boxing insults before his fights. There was too many of them to count. You know, before the Thriller in Manila, when he got that little rubber gorilla out. He got that little rubber gorilla out. That still cracks me up to this day. He got the little rubber gorilla out. He started punching it. Said, this is Joe Frazier. Oh, stop it. Yeah, Ali, his pre-fight stuff was hilarious. Mike Tyson's pre-fight stuff was hilarious. When he fought Razor Ruddock the second time, and they had this conversation via whatever it was, satellite link, and Mike Tyson was sat there in a tracksuit with some dark glasses on, and Razor Ruddock was in the studio, and Mike Tyson came out with some real suspect stuff, saying that he was going to make Razor Ruddock his girlfriend and make him kiss him with those big lips. And it shut down everything Razor Ruddock was trying to say, because Razor Ruddock was trying to come with, you know, sophisticated trash talk. I don't know. He was trying to come with a gentlemanly type conduct, but being condescending to Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson just cut through all that, saying, told him I'm going to make you my girlfriend. You know, Mike Tyson said a lot of suspect stuff, a lot of wild stuff, and it was hilarious. Whether or not he intended it to be, I don't know, but it was hilarious. Wow, Coppen says, isn't Scott Harrison on the comeback trail? He keeps posting he's got a fight coming up. Not sure if it's some type of exhibition or if it's a sanctioned fight. Scott Harrison. Like the featherweight Scott Harrison? That is the guy I'm thinking about, right? From Scotland.
the former world champion. He used to be a featherweight. He looks about super middleweight now. He's all like inflated with muscles, weightlifting and whatever. Maybe he's going to come back and do bare knuckle. A lot of the old ex-pros are doing that now. So is that what he's talking about? Bare knuckle? Mayorga, how could I forget him? His trash talk was legendary. With the with the cigarette. The Latino tough guy routine. Yeah, Mayorga was great fun. Definitely a legend with trash talking and pre-fight antics. Alex Arthur, yes, Casa, Alex Arthur. Okay, who's Scott Harrison? Yeah, Alex Arthur was, well, why am I thinking he was called Scott Harrison? Let me look up who Scott Harrison is. I need to remind myself. Scott Harrison, who's Scott Harrison? Looking up his box rec here. Okay, he is a Scottish guy, Scott Harrison. I'm just mixing up the Scottish guys. All right, Scott Harrison. Yeah, he was a world champion. No, he was featherweight. No, this is the guy I was thinking of. Yeah, this is the guy. But yeah, he's not the one. Alex Arthur's the one who's pumped himself up with weights, isn't he? Yeah, that's Alex Arthur. Scott Harrison was the featherweight world champion back in the days. Okay, I'm mixing the two guys up, but they're both Scottish. Yeah, you're right. But no, this is the guy I was thinking about when I was thinking featherweight champion, so on and so forth. Why would he be coming back? Surely it must be bare knuckle. You can't be coming back to professional boxing, Queensberry rules. Surely not. His last fight was in 2013. All right, let's move on to the next fight here to talk about, because Khalil Cole got weighed in. Another Eddie Hearn prospect bites the dust. Whatever Eddie Hearn touches these days turns to doo-doo. He's got the opposite of the Midas touch. It's a curious thing. The energy's against him. The Eddie Hearn curse, as Oscar De La Hoya likes to call it. He says that if you sign with Eddie Hearn, you're either going to lose or you get injured. Maybe there's some truth to it, or maybe you don't look good like Boots Ennis. Ever since he signed with Eddie Hearn, he's looked poor. Go and have a look at Boots Ennis's fight prior to signing with Hearn. He looked pretty good in that fight. But since signing with Hearn, he's been looking poor. I mean, I'm thinking it's down to him being weight drained, but you never know. Maybe it's the Eddie Hearn curse. Speaking of the Eddie Hearn curse, Amo Williams, another Eddie Hearn prospect who got filled in by Hamza Shiraz on the 5v5 card. Now, I was never particularly impressed with Amo Williams. To me, he always looked like a very run-of-the-mill prospect, mediocre. I never saw any outstanding talent there. And so when he lost, and in fact, when he lost to Hamza Shiraz, he looked even worse than he looked previously. But I guess you got to give credit to Shiraz for making him look worse than he looked previously. But he came back here on the undercard of Boots Ennis, and I thought that he looked shaky as usual. I thought that the Mexican-American guy who he was fighting, the writing is actually a bit too small here on my streaming screen to read his name. Where did I put the screenshot so I can read his name? Or get his record up somewhere. Okay, Gian Garrido. So he was 11-1 going in. Amo Williams, 16-1. A 28-year-old Williams against a 26-year-old Garrido. And Garrido, who apparently doesn't have the reputation of being a puncher, was giving Amo Williams loads to think about. I thought Amo Williams at times looked very concerned in there about the way the fight was going. I don't think Amo Williams has got a particularly high ring IQ. I think he's repetitive, predictable in the ring. His speed is decent, but it's nothing amazing, as is the case with his power. His power is decent, nothing amazing. For Amo Williams' style to be really effective and successful at world level, you would need Adonis Stevenson level punching power. That's what would be required for him to be really successful at world level. And he doesn't have that. So he had plenty of trouble in this fight against Garrido. He looked concerned at times. He looked gassed out at times. He was swinging wildly and looked a little desperate. But he did eventually manage to catch Garrido. He caught him early and stunned him. But then Garrido came back into it. Later on in the fight, he caught him better and managed to force a stoppage. And he was relieved afterwards, elated, hyped up. And you know what? Listening to Amo Williams talk, he sounds like a troubled individual to me. I don't know how many of you get the same impression about him, but to me, he seems like a troubled person. Like there's some mental and emotional issues there. And he was saying some weird things like Eddie Hearn's family, and Eddie Hearn is not your family. Right? Because Amo Williams is young and Eddie Hearn needs fighters to put on cards in America, he doesn't have a massive stable these days, then he's kept hold of Amo Williams. I'm sure he's got a long-term contract or whatever. But yeah, don't go believing that Eddie Hearn is your family or he's your friend. He's definitely not. Yeah, but the fact that Amo Williams came out with that, I think is a sign that this young man has got problems. Yeah, and in fact, I swear a few years ago, Amo Williams was saying some weird stuff on social media. Unless I'm confusing him with a different fighter, I could have sworn it was Amo Williams who was saying weird stuff on social media and actually started attacking Eddie Hearn. And this is when he was signed to Eddie Hearn. So I think he did have some type of mental breakdown a few years ago, some emotional issues a few years ago, which he overcame. And yeah, I think psychologically he's very, very shaky, that young man. Very, very shaky. I'm not sure that he's mentally robust enough for this game, to be honest. I wasn't impressed by his performance. Mediocre, as far as I'm concerned. Got the stoppage, but yeah, I definitely wouldn't say sky's the limit for Austin Amo Williams. Am I being harsh? You guys tell me in the comments. You guys tell me in the live chat, should I say. Am I being harsh on Amo Williams? Because I don't think he's very good. All right, Hibbert says Amo Williams should be an underground rapper. He does sound like a battle rapper or something, right? Jackie Boy Johnson says Shiraz took his soul. I don't know whether Shiraz took his soul. I think his soul was troubled even before Shiraz. I'm just not sure whether he has the type of personality that's cut out for this game. You know? He might be a bit too sensitive and emotional. And, you know, there are other fighters that are sensitive and emotional, but they've got extraordinary talent to make up for it, like Ryan Garcia. Amo Williams doesn't have extraordinary talent. Isaac says sometimes coming out of a KO loss can be life-changing. It can be. But again, I think he had issues prior. Even when he was still unbeaten, there were psychological cracks that were appearing. Yeah, 4Fox remembers what I was referring to. He said if you saw Amo's Instagram after, okay, this was after the Shiraz fight. He says he was moving off key. He was spam posting and calling himself Amo Williams. Yeah, that is off key. But as I say, several years ago, he started going at Eddie Hearn. When he'd only recently signed to Hearn, and he started going at Hearn on social media. And I was like, what on earth is all that about? You know, very weird. Four Fox says, Amo wasn't a good amateur either, from my understanding. He seems like a molly-coddled fighter to me. Yeah. And he looked horrible against Shiraz. I mean, he hung in there and showed some heart, but his technique was all over the place. He looked like a ranked novice. I mean, a proper novice. Like a novice amateur going up against a polished professional in the Shiraz fight. He looked horrible. Kassar says, Billy Joe Saunders is moving reckless within his community. Yeah, Billy Joe. I saw some traveler, a middle-aged guy, who made a video, it's probably still up on YouTube, having a go at Billy Joe, saying that Billy Joe got dropped by his son. You know, my son dropped you with 3 shots, he was saying in the video. It's like, Canelo dropped you, my son dropped you with 3 shots, Billy Joe, and all that. It's quite a funny video if you ain't seen it. And he's one of the travelers I've seen going at Billy Joe. And I saw another traveler, I think he was from up north somewhere, and he was going in on Billy Joe as well. So I don't know what Billy Joe's doing in the in the traveler community, but he's definitely got a fair few enemies. Sazad says, Hatman, maybe Amo has been punched too many times in the head. Maybe. You could say that about a lot of fighters, right? People laughing at the impression of that traveler. Let me try and get the... I laugh just thinking about that video. I laugh just thinking about that video. Let me try and get that video up and post it in the chat, because it really tickled me. And then I saw Billy Joe Saunders make some response videos where he was like blatantly drunk and he was on his phone saying, I'll turn up tomorrow and I'll do this and that and the other. And then the traveler that he was calling out came back at him and said, you know, all the back and forth traveler stuff. It's highly entertaining. Let me just type this in here. Billy Joe Saunders, traveler call out. Traveler beef. Where's this guy? Where is this guy? Is it still up here? Yeah, there it is. The video is called Traveler Man's Message to Billy Joe Saunders about last night. Let me post it. Let me post this in the chat here. It's hilarious. My son dropped you with 3 shots. He dropped you with 3 shots, Billy Joe, and Canelo dropped you. Not Canelo, Canella. Canelo dropped you. Yeah, there's the link to the video. It's good for a laugh. Hibbert says, Hatman, do you listen to UK rap? New UK rap? No. I mean, I'm aware of certain artists, and I might have heard the odd track here or there, but I don't really listen to new music. I'm an old man. I'll leave that stuff to the youngsters. And but yeah, as I say, I'm aware of certain songs and certain artists out there, but I don't really listen to old school rap often these days either, to be honest. I listen to like when I do listen to music, I don't listen to a lot of music, but when I do listen to music, I'll listen to Motown, reggae, old school dancehall, random pop songs from the 1980s. Yeah, I like a bit of 80s pop. You know, pop in the 80s was actually pretty good. It's not like the pop they produce now, which is just like the blandest, most soulless garbage that has ever been invented. Like, contemporary pop music is so awful for the most part. It has this like, I don't know, this soulless quality about it. It's as if it was made by AI or something. Maybe it was. But 80s pop was great. You know what I mean? It was great. Like, for example, I mean, so many of the songs back then. What was that guy who did, oh my God, I can't remember what it's called now. Take these broken wings and use your hands to come and heal them once again. You know that song there? Who's the guy that sung that song? I forget his name. Or the group or whatever. Mr. Thank you, Craig. Yes. The 80s pop was great. You know? There was God, I'm forgetting the names of the artists that I know well. I guess that's old age, right? What's that other group I'm thinking of here? Yeah, Tears for Fears. They made great pop music. Tears for Fears. Huh? Everybody Wants to Rule the World. Nas later sampled that, obviously. That's a great song. You know, Changes. That weren't Tears for Fears. That was another artist. Changes was a great pop song. Tears for Fears, Everybody Wants to Rule the World. What's the other Tears for Fears one that I like? That was sampled by Little Fame from MOP. There's a Tears for Fears song. God, it was in the movie Donnie Darko. You know the Tears for Fears song I'm talking about that was in the movie Donnie Darko? Nah, not Mad World. There was a Tears for Fears song that was in the movie Donnie Darko. Head Over Heels. Head Over Heels. Thank you. Jackie Boy Johnson. Yes. Head Over Heels. They made great pop music in the 1980s. To a lesser extent in the 90s, but there were still good pop songs in the 90s. So yeah, I listen to like random pop songs from the 1980s. Soul and R&B from the 70s, 60s, some from the 80s, reggae, old school dancehall. When I listen to music, it tends to be stuff like that. Rap music, hip hop music is more so a youth genre where you can kind of grow out of it. Obviously, there is some rap music that is more timeless, which you can enjoy no matter what age you are. But most of it is very like youth orientated. And once you've reached past a certain age, you know, it doesn't really appeal to you in the same way. Adam says 80s and 90s R&B. Yeah, I don't like 90s R&B. I stopped liking R&B in the 80s. The 80s was my limit for R&B. From the 90s on, I never liked any R&B. I know the 90s is seen as like a golden era for R&B, but not for me, because the R&B of the 90s was like sweet boy music. Yeah, that's what it was like, sweet boy music. And I've never been a sweet boy, so it wasn't really for me. Okay, Marley says, give a shout out to Somalia. Shout out to Somalia. There you go. I quite like Somali food. Corpen says, why did Top of the Pops go out of fashion? Why did it go out of fashion? I think people eventually saw Top of the Pops as kind of corny. So in the 90s, people started looking at Top of the Pops as like, cheesy and kiddie type business. And yeah, in the 90s, it kind of went out of fashion. Because in terms of like popular culture, the 60s, 70s, and 80s were a time of innocence in popular culture. Okay? Popular culture in the 60s, 70s, and 80s was very PG, right? When it comes to like entertainment and what have you. For the most part, television programs that were geared towards teenagers and children were very kind of childish. Whereas in the 90s, it started to change and there was the whole Cool Britannia thing and Britpop and all that type of stuff where teenagers wanted to start acting more like adults and they were trying to detach themselves from all that, what they saw as cheesy stuff from the 80s and 70s with Top of the Pops. So I think that's what it was. It was like a shift in the youth culture is what led Top of the Pops to go out of fashion. And some people are mentioning Jim will fix it. Nah, he was, by the time he got exposed, Top of the Pops was dead and buried by that point. So it was, Top of the Pops was over long before Jim will fix it got exposed. And of course, streaming, right? I mean, yeah, Jackie Boy Johnson says the charts stopped being interesting towards the end. Indeed, people stopped paying attention, particularly as online streaming became a thing. Obviously, before the days of Spotify, people were downloading from Pirate Bay, LimeWire, Napster before it went legit, then LimeWire, which would... I remember somebody saying that LimeWire would give your computer AIDS. And that's pretty much what it did. For free MP3s, people risked giving their computer a terminal illness. Yeah, LimeWire was the way, but man, that thing brought so many viruses onto your computer. It'll mash your computer right up. Adam says he's still got tunes from LimeWire. Not sure that's safe. Four Fox says, I hope they don't license Ibeabuchi. Last I checked, the fight he was trying to have, although on the last live stream I did, there was somebody claiming to have spoken to Ibeabuchi and they were saying the live stream is not going to go ahead. But the fight is not going to go ahead. If that's true, maybe they've denied him a license, but all I can tell you is it was up on BoxRec. The fight was listed on BoxRec, Ibeabuchi versus some random old man. And in Nigeria. I can't imagine that the criteria for getting licensed in certain states in Nigeria is that high. And if they do deny him, I'm sure he can go to a next African country. Get licensed very easily. then again, being a convicted felon with the kind of charges he was sent down for, I don't know how easy it will be for him to, get a fight in another African country. He might have to do it for no money, peanuts. Is he willing to do that just to get the ball rolling? I don't know. You could go to Ghana, they do a lot of boxing there. You could go to Tanzania, they do loads of boxing shows there. South Africa do loads of boxing shows. There are options if there are no issues with him getting visas to enter those countries and all that type of stuff. There can be a lot of red tape in Africa when it comes to things like that. Full Fox says, I wonder if Chisora will actually get his fight in Zimbabwe that he wants so badly. I mean, I would like him to. I think it would be very poetic for him to have his final fight in his home country. And it would be massive for Zimbabwe, which has been, ravaged economically over the past 20 plus years because of sanctions and what have you. So, yeah, I think it would be great for Zimbabwe for Chisora to have a fight out there. And Chisora being a born and bred Zimbabwean and having, I think his dad's maybe still alive and he's got a lot of connections and what have you, it might be easier for him to actually get a fight on out there because he understands the lay of the land. Because I've always thought that one of the reasons why big shows are not happening in Africa are because there are too many government officials and, local politicians and law enforcement and all that kind of stuff on the ground in most African countries who are on the take, And so if you're Eddie Hearn or any kind of big promoter and you are inquiring about putting a fight on in Nigeria or wherever, and you find all these local people coming to you demanding a cut, you're like, well, this don't make any financial sense. we can't do a show here because there's too many people, trying to take money. That's why I suspect is the reason that there aren't any big shows in Africa. Yeah, big boxing shows. Too many people on the take. Our Afro Jam says South Africa used to have big fights. Well, yeah, it had some because they had some world champions. Baby Jake McLala was a world champion there and he had a lot of fights there. Chris Eubank Sr. actually fought in South Africa. Obviously, Lennox Lewis when he fought Hasim Ratman. So, if a big fight was going to happen, maybe South Africa. Glad Tidings says no money. No, money's not the problem. There's loads of money. There's a massive wealth gap, but in many African countries, there's loads of money. In Nigeria, I mean, there's incredibly wealthy people there. If you talk to a lot of the rappers, like American rappers and what have you, they actually get paid more for a lot of the shows that they do in Africa than they get paid in the United States. So there's plenty of money. It's just that there's too many entitled people, is the best way to describe it. Entitled government officials and just people on the take. It's like a cultural thing, unfortunately, in Africa, of just take. Everybody wants a piece of the pie. Take. And if you're going to come and do something in our jurisdiction, you're going to, it's crazy like that. Yeah, some of the rappers have gone on tour in Africa, but here's the thing, Afro Jam. I suspect when the rappers tour in Africa, it is at local African promoters that are hosting the events. You see it? Whereas if you try to put a big show on in Africa, it's not going to be a local African boxing promoter putting on the event, is it? It's going to be a foreign promoter. And I think that's what the issue is. Because the local African promoters are like, whoa, we need to get paid here. You know what I mean? And then probably local government and local law enforcement to take care of the security. And everybody's on the damn take. And it just gets silly. Four Fox says, baby Jake McLawler had a 59-inch reach. Yeah, he was mad short, and he had a big head too. He had like a big head, but he was really short. And his arms were so short. Like baby Jake's arms were so short, I swear to God, the cuff of his gloves came up to his damn bicep. Yo, baby Jake was so short, it was crazy. It was crazy. And he broke up a bunch of UK fighters. I think Mickey Cantwell was one of the guys. One of the guys he mashed up. He was like a foot taller than baby Jake. And somehow this baby Jake was damn near a midget. And he was going in there. He was going in there fighting guys who were like a foot taller than him and winning. It was so weird. If you've never seen baby Jake McLawler fight, you know, look him up on YouTube. I mean, what is the height that qualifies someone as a midget? Like, how short do you have to be to qualify? A 59-inch reach is crazy. Yo, 59-inch reach is crazy. Oh, that's crazy. Okay, Steven says a midget is 4'10" or less. So that means baby Jake was a midget then. He was a midget then. So a midget was actually beating normal men. That's a madness. Maybe that should be in the Guinness Book of World Records. Yeah, for a midget that's actually able to become a boxing world champion. Maybe that's the first time it's ever happened. Triple R says, have you seen those short people fights, Hatman, like Lickle Man? Yeah, I've seen a couple of Lickle Man fights. Lickle Man is shredded. What kind of shape is Lickle Man in? Does he do roids? That guy's built like the Incredible Hulk. The little dwarf Lickle Man. It's crazy. He's got like 6 packs and traps and all sorts. Jackie Boy says, is there a difference between a midget and a dwarf? I've always thought the difference is that a midget is a very short person whose body is still in proportion. You know, because most people with dwarfism, they have like an abnormally large head, abnormally short limbs in relation to their torso. You know, their head shape is abnormal and stuff like that. Whereas a midget is someone that's just, you know, their proportions are all normal, but they're just very, very short. I guess Hasbulla would be a midget, right? But he's also got this baby thing where he's a very short man, but he also looks like a baby. And the other one's got it as well. Abdu Rozik. He's got that little, he's a midget, but he looks like a baby. Yeah, Four Fox says, Lickle Man is in that prison shape. And here's the crazy thing about Lickle Man, in case you don't know, right? Lickle Man was a criminal. He was actually a burglar. So he used to roll with like a team of burglars, and they would send Lickle Man through little windows in people's houses. You know, like the window above the main window where an adult couldn't get through, they would send little man, because he's a dwarf, through the little windows, people's little bathroom windows and stuff like that, like some type of evil elf, at Christmas time coming to steal presents and not give them. They would send little man through little windows. And then I guess he would let the rest of the gang in, once he was inside. And that's what he went prison for, as far as I'm aware. And maybe that's where he got in that prison shape. Craig says send him through send him through letterboxes. Post him. Put him in a box and post him. Oh my gosh. Put him in a box and post him. Oh my god. Oh my days. Put him through the letterbox. That's crazy. Oh dear, oh dear. We're probably all going to hell for this. I hope you know that. Oh my gosh. Little man. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Yeah, that's the craziest comment. Send him through the letterbox or through the cat flap. He could probably fit through a cat flap, to be fair. He'd probably fit through a cat flap. Secure those cat flaps, people. They got sending dwarves into your house, into your home these days to do burglaries. I'll take care out here. Yeah, send him first class recorded. It's a madness. In fact, right, I used to work security in LVMH stores like Louis Vuitton, Christian Dior. Way back in the days, I used to work security in there. And, as you do, some of the guys in the security would always wonder because, some of them were, from a little bit of a naughty background. And some of them would wonder how or if they could organize some type of burglary of one of these stores where they had hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of pounds worth of jewelry in these places. They never did, but young guys will be young guys. And those stores, of course, get lots of deliveries all the time. Yeah, loads of boxes get delivered there, stock and so on and so forth, which they don't always open there and then. Yeah, so what you could do, I'm not advocating any of this, but what you could do, right, is arrange to have a package delivered right at the end of the day when the store's about to close. Get it delivered then with a little man in the box. With a dwarf in the box. So you can let everybody in. Huh? How's that for a master plan? Yeah, the Trojan horse. Yeah, it's like a roadman version of the Trojan horse. Yeah. Glad Tidings says that's probably been done, Hatman. It probably has. It probably has. If I had to guess where it's been done, surely at some point in America, somebody has attempted to do that. They've mailed a dwarf into some store. That must have happened in America at some point. if you look it up on a search engine, you'll probably find something like that. A dwarf was mailed in, and it's crazy. All right, peeps, I'm going to check out here. So thank you all for joining me on this live stream. I appreciate all you guys. Be good. Don't go mailing dwarves to anyone. And I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out.